Noxcrew. Let's come over to the horse game.
Horse course.
The horse course. Now this was built only about 4 days before the game show finished, and I mean the game show was filmed. And one of the reasons that was because after lots of playtesting, we found that the game that I'd built here didn't really work. And it didn't work for camera reasons more than anything else. It was an archery game where you had 5 different players lining up in an archery range, kind of a bit Zelda style, where you had to hit a whole bunch of wooden pressure plates and wooden buttons, and you were just trying to get dispensers to shoot out glowstone and redstone so you could build a glowstone lamp and not be the last person to place your glowstone lamp down on a block. It was impossible for the cameras to really see what was going on, and you couldn't really actually see the dropped items, so there was no way to tell who was winning or losing. It just didn't work.
There were a bunch of inconsistencies with that game that we just decided it was easier to scrap it. And let me tell you, when you were trying to come up with a new idea for a competition like this, I can't tell you how many different things I googled trying to find, you know, maybe retired Olympic events or like competitions in Scotland up in the mountains or things like that.
We had to think of so many different ideas, and like with 1 week to go, we're not panicking, but we're just like, what can we do? What can we do that we haven't done? What can we do that's different? We went through so many really bad ideas. This ambulance actually spawned out of one of the other ideas that we had, which was freestyle parkour. Now, I did not come up with this idea. I'm not going to name names, but that was serious. That is the worst idea we've ever had. Freestyle parkour? Like, the person who suggested it said, yeah, we'll get somebody to judge who did the best parkour.
To be fair, that idea was based on a previous suggestion by me where I thought we should make them ice dance and play them music and have them on an ice skating rink and have them going around and trying to do spins and twirls. But, I mean, the issue with that is when the game ends with one player being eliminated from the game show, you can't really throw that based on someone's, you know,
personal
just
opinion,
whimsy.
Yeah.
It's not
360 no skate.
No, exactly. It's not the way to go. So we played around with the freestyle parkour idea. After that, we played around with using the freestyle parkour course as a collection game, so everyone runs the course and you see who can collect the most stuff. Didn't work.
We had
then we thought
hand pushing games. We had like obstacle games. Now I think horse racing was about the second idea that we had, but we didn't realize that we'd be able to spawn consistent horses. Like, we knew that if we did a horse game, we couldn't just like randomly give them, here's a spawn a horse, because they all have different stats. Then it turns out, thank goodness, somebody said, no, I think you can actually do that.
Plugins were the answer, and we got Vaxioite to include a horse thing in the plugin, and he spawned us all identical horses. So the obstacles in this course are actually based off from horse obstacles that I designed for a personal project on my own multiplayer survival server. And it was a project
You've got to show that off sometime. That is
I should do a video on Rancho Zoidberg for my channel.
It's really cool.
I called it Rancho Zoidberg as a piece of trivia referencing Futurama. You should Google Rancho Zoidberg and see what comes up. But all these horse obstacles were based off from real life ones, and I wanted to get the obstacles right because on my multiplayer server, the idea is that you're role-playing like you actually live there. And so if someone was actually to be a horse fanatic and was to open up a horse ranch like that, they would have legitimate exercise places for their horses, and they would have an actual equestrian course with the proper jumps. So these all actually mimic horse jumps that you'll find in real life if you were to Google those. Besides this one with the little loop that you have to jump through, the rest of these obstacles are all pretty standard horse obstacles that you could find on an equestrian competition in real life.
That loop was me, but I thought that looked cool, so I just put it in.
Well, too bad we didn't light it on fire.
Well, Well, actually, that's an excellent idea.
We
Now,
should've.
this is my favorite. Out of all of them that we designed, this is my favorite design, even though it was the last one, and I'll take you through a couple of reasons why. First of all, we managed to fit in more than twice the amount of track that we normally could in this area by actually stacking it on top of each other. Secondly, we managed to fix the problem of lighting that up by putting. You'll notice if you go to the inside core, the inside white core, there's actually a layer of glass before that, which means that there's light filtering all the way down from top to the bottom, letting light into that bottom layer, meaning that it's light enough for the cameras to actually follow. There's what else that makes this really good? All of these blocks are hand placed by myself. I mean, apart from the decorations, like I built this entire structure from hand, just going, okay, so there's going to be this many blocks, and then we go up another half slab, then this many blocks, then we go up another half slab. And coming down here with the signs down the bottom, golden carrots, you actually set up something here so that...
Oh yeah, I should mention that. I think there were a couple of comments that pointed out, well, they already had this set up as blue, 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 yellow, yellow, so they must have known that the yellow person was going to get out first. That's actually not the case. I had a machine set up behind the wall here that based on who won the first game, it would adjust these. And so if we come up here to my little control panel, I had this announcer's box up in the stands that had all of these buttons, the start buttons for each game in it. And if we come back here, before horse course, we had a blue out first and a yellow out first. So if you'll stay there, Niall, I'll go back down here. Sure. And why don't you hit the blue out first button? Ah, you can see all the colors switch. Now hit the other one, and you can see they switched back. And apparently someone had replaced the yellow with green wool, which is interesting. I thought it was just Jollycraft being hilarious, but nope. Somebody mixed them up. So yeah, that's how we did that. We didn't fix it. That system was there just to make our lives easier on the graphics side of things.
Now, the one big criticism that I've got of this, and it partially came down to shooting, but the horses move so fast, the cameras really have a problem catching up. I mean, the cameras had a problem just catching up with Python's script, although that's more because they were a bit derpy. But with this one here, the horses move so fast, and there's just enough lag that it makes it very difficult to track one specific player. What I would have liked to see happen is have one camera just focus on these two gaps, because really the way to tell whether or not somebody's winning or losing on this is how many times they've fallen down to the level below because they haven't made this crucial jump here. Right. There are two crucial jumps. Yeah, like there's one big gap there and one big gap there. If you miss them, fall down to the level below again. And I don't think that was quite properly explained. Maybe it was kind of made it seem like Captain Sparkles just couldn't get over those smaller jumps, but no, Captain Sparkles just kept on falling down this gap here.
He was having a lot of trouble timing his ability. This was a nice design feature though, because we wanted to have a jump that you had to make to beat it, but we also didn't want you to be able to fall all the way to the bottom. So by just offsetting these jumps by just this little bit, if you fell down the top one, there was no chance of you falling down the bottom one as well, unless you were intentionally trying to do that.
I don't think, given the design, given the parameters, we did the best job possible for this. Like this, and genuinely not like the best possible given the time frame, just this is a really nice build. I
really enjoyed this game. I thought that it turned out as well as it could have, and I really think that it was the only way that we could have even done a horse race in the game show and had it be successful in this format. Okay, so now that we've finished talking about that, I will finally turn around and look at this.
Ta-da!
We did it!
Now okay, let's address the sheep game. Now, Noxite already has, and I will come clean, the sheep game was my build. Now, I stand by the sheep game as a premise by itself, but I'm going to explain now why the sheep game didn't work. With every single game, it's essentially 1 versus 1 versus 1 versus 1 versus 1, except Spleef and the sheep game. Now with Spleef, that's okay. because you can gang up on each other because you're evenly matched. You've got 3 aside. The problem with the sheep game is you're not individually separated, which meant that you could always find ways to gang up or interfere with the other players. And when you're able to interfere with other players, but there's more players on one team than the other, that makes it unfair. And sure, there are different ways to balance depending on what game you're actually playing, but with the sheep game, it was really tricky to balance. And unfortunately, like, we struggled so much to come up for another game to replace the horse game. We knew that the sheep game would be a problem. We didn't know how big of a problem it was going to be. I mean, it blew up much bigger than we expected it would.
Yeah, that's a point that I wanted to add as well, is that initially the sheep game wasn't the worst game. It was the second worst game behind the archery game. And if if that hadn't been the case, then we probably would have been trying to revisit the sheep game from a start over from scratch perspective instead of a let's just make it work as best as we can. So in hindsight, I mean, that the main issue with the game was the fact that you could have the potential to team up on the other team, and so we tried to counterbalance that by giving the team who was shorthanded a fighting chance, and it turned out to be really sort of an overpowered solution, which was unfortunate. But we're considering design perspectives on knockout games from a more logical base now than we did before. So while the sheep game didn't turn out well, I am glad that we did it, because it's going to cause us to not do things like that in the future, which is, you know, you learn from your mistakes, and as long as we're continuing to improve the things that we do, you can't complain about where it came from just because it's teaching us things. So that's good.
Yeah, look, me too. I mean, I'm glad we did it, and like, all things considered, there is one thing that I liked about the sheep game. I finally got to introduce the Banjo-Tooie theme colors. I don't know if anybody of you have played Banjo-Kazooie or Banjo-Tooie, but whenever you had one of those little mini games, you'd always have red was worth 1 point, and green was worth 2 points, and blue was worth 3 points. And even though it was introduced in the second worst game of all time in the Noxcrew, at least I managed to introduce the Banjo-Tooie colors. They will be making a comeback, I assure you.
Good. Okay, so that covers Noxgames from start to finish, and it also covers the Noxcrew Gameshow episode 6 from start to finish. So thanks for joining us, guys. I've been Avondale.
And I've been Niall. Thank you so much, guys, for sticking around and checking out everything that goes on behind the scenes. There's so much more that you haven't seen. I wish I could show you everything else.
Hey, if you guys have any questions, though, let me know in the comments, and if there's enough questions about a certain topic, who knows? I mean, I'm always happy to make another video to show off some stuff, and I'm sure Niall's always happy to take a nap in the afternoon and wake up at 9 p.m. to do some recording with me in America.
It is 3:13 in the morning. I stayed up way too late.
Yeah, and he's gonna work in 4 hours, so we're gonna let him go. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. See ya.
No worries. Bye. Subscribe.
Oh, come on, I was dancing there.
Oh, really? Hang on. Explosion. Explosion.
Okay.
Club next week.
That was the
DJ
best.
Niall with
that was the best club music I've ever heard.
Well, you know, at least you know what you're getting.
Right.
Just getting hyper aggressive, super stylized beats.
That's right. Classy.
Hey. Welcome to the video.
I'm trying. Every time I try to start it, you start talking. Oh man. Every time. It's the ping, man. It's gotta be the ping.
It is.